Today's event marks the final release of phase one of the ceasefire deal as the nominee to be Trump's most important diplomat to Israel. What will be your highest priorities as we move towards phase two?
Well, I think there's no doubt. It's first getting the hostages out of there. We've had Americans that were held hostage for over 500 days. But frankly, I don't care where they come from and who they are. They've been held in the most horrific of conditions. These are not combatants. These are people, most all of them are civilians, many of them taken who were just attending a music festival, out having a wonderful time with their friends. They survived this. Some of them, of course, did not, and the remains of some are coming home. It's a horrible thing to realize that in a civilized world, this most uncivilized group of people have done the massacre that they have done and continue to act as if they are some kind of force to be reckoned with.
What are the administration's biggest concerns right now as the ceasefire deal moves forward, Governor? What could derail it at this point?
I think the president's been very clear that Hamas cannot remain in Gaza. President Trump has been absolute in his resolve that these are not people that you can sit down and say, okay, you can go back to governing Gaza, you can control it again. He's made it clear that's not going to happen. And he's also said that the Israelis are free to do what they have to do to rid themselves of this incredible menace that Hamas has become and is. He also has done something that many people don't understand. He's cutting off their bloodline from Iran. This is singularly the most important thing of all in ultimately getting rid of Hamas, the Houthis, and Hezbollah, because they were under the maximum pressure when Donald Trump was in office in his first term. Joe Biden came in, immediately relaxed it. That freed up billions of dollars, and what did the Iranians do with it? They funded the Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah and terror groups, who then carried out these vicious, savage attacks on civilians. So first, starve the lines of support, and that's what the president is doing now with the Iranians.
You've made several visits to Israel over the last 50 years. You've seen various periods of conflict in the region. We see this volatile situation right now. How will your approach to U.S.-Israel relations differ from your predecessors?
I'm not sure that I can say how it will differ. I can only tell you that I will carry out the president's policies, and I'm so proud to be able to do that because this is a president that had historic gains, recognizing Jerusalem as the indigenous eternal capital of the Jewish people, recognizing the Golan Heights as sovereign Israeli territory, recognizing not only the sovereignty of Jerusalem, but moving the embassy there, finally, after presidents, both Democrat and Republican, said they were going to do it but never did. He actually did it. He has been a president like no other when it comes to recognizing that the Jewish state of Israel is one of America's most important, if not the most important ally. And it's not just because of intelligence and military cooperation that we have. That certainly is a part of it. But it's a shared culture. It's the shared culture of a Judeo-Christian civilization that is the foundation of all of Western civilization.
Do you believe a two-state solution is a viable path at this point to lasting peace in Israel? If not, what do you think an alternative solution would be?
If one defines two-state solution as meaning that you have people who have sworn a blood oath to murder Jews living next door and governing, no, that's not realistic. And over 70% of Israelis now utterly reject that. And I'm not sure why the other 30 think it can work. We had a Palestinian state. It was called Gaza. I would just ask your viewers, how'd that turn out? There's got to be a realignment in the Middle East. And the good news is President Trump is set to make that happen. He's put things on the table that have caused all of the Middle East leaders to say, wait a minute, what would this look like? And the point is they're coming to the table to say, let's reshape this. The good news is that President Trump is in a position to do something, and the term I use is of biblical proportion, bringing a level of peace, security, and a real sense of safety, not just to the Israelis, but to the Saudis, to the Emiratis, to the people of Bahrain. That entire region could use a good dose of peace and prosperity, but that can only happen when you deal with the Iranian threat, because they're the the outlier in all of this. They're the ones who threaten the other Gulf countries. It's not Israel. And
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.